Home, home on the range, where the homeless, vet, and mentally ill range. There is never heard on the 5G word anything of all our relations. Christopher Columbus was a saint of the corporate plutocratic state, and that's why we celebrate him. Thanksgiving shouldn't be a time only once a year, because if it is, we're celebrating genocide. Thanksgiving should be every day, where the cowboys and the cowgirls can play, wearing funny hats like this, making everyone feel bliss. And we have the best of intentions, where we, all our relations, are just a little pebble in the pond of love's soul, where Jesus isn't hung every day in every way with the avarice of wanting some stuff. Morning, y'all. This is your cowboy sensei, Larry Bob. Larry Bob is Santa's younger brother. Santa is a shamanic, psychosocial, cultural, forensic anthropologist, alchemist, who's been around way before. At the beginning, it was dark. Santa is love. Santa is not Walmart's. Santa is not getting your favorite dildo delivered by Amazon. You know, those dildos aren't just used by the women folk. You know what I'm talking about. All you people out there who always are concerned about the smell of farts, or as what our friend Freud would say, anal retentive, use it in that hole. Or this one. You know, it's all you Amazon folk. Just because you get it delivered in the box, you know, the powers that shouldn't be know every little secret about you. The thing about secrets is they're not good to have. They rot you from the inside out. And that is what has happened to our society. Because human Homo sapiens sapiens have been around at least, if not longer, 1,000,000 years. Right? And we have had, you know, in that 1,000,000 years, at least 3 or 4 what we would call species annihilations on this planet. And right now, we're not, you know, everything the powers that shouldn't be tell you stuff like no child left behind. Well, what that means is every child's left behind. When you hear global warming, that means it's a scam. Another way to put a tax on your ass, because what we're heading into, kids, is not global warming. It's a new ice age. You know, Greenland is building more ice than it ever has in a geologic history, you know. And right now, it's we have an ice storm here in Roanoke, in the Appalachian Mountains, and it's not even winter yet. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's not as bad as last week's ice storm, which like took out the our electric grid. And that was only done so they could replace it with the 5G, you know, new Internet of Things, with your smart meters, you know, and all your smart appliances. They don't use Freon or any of that kind of stuff because it allegedly hurts the ozone, you know. Instead of now they use natural gas, meaning your refrigerator is a bomb. If you're buying your new refrigerator for Christmas at Lowe's, ask them what the refrigerant is. And first off, the average moron who works at Lowe's can't even use toilet paper, so they're not going to know. Yeah, no. Let me use my skin. No. Sorry. Back in the day, Lowe's used to have people who in the plumbing department knew plumbing, and people in the tile department had laid tile, and people in the electric department, were electricians. They could tell you what you needed. But today, they get high school dropouts who have spent their whole life, like Johnny Boxboy. You know, he is of not that millennial crew, but kids after him are. And it is. But the people to blame are the people of my generation, the baby boomers, Because the baby boomers weren't like me. I was like dipped into the protective, how to dip dogs and dip cows, kind of protects them from things. Well, I was dipped in the unconditional love of my grandma and her elder community who came from, did you ever see the movie 1900s? You should go see that movie with Robert De Niro and Mr. Sutherland and a few other greats. And it shows where they were coming from the old times in Italy, where the padrone kind of ran the county. But everybody within his hamlet, even the serfs were his buddies. He grew up with them, It's like Jefferson, having sex with all those black people. He was like close to them. Well, Donnie is lost. He's like Dr. Smith in Lost in Space, And I just saw one of those episodes on MeTV. Me TV, me. Back in the day when I lived in Asheville, North Carolina, there was a guy who was brilliant, right? And he had the first server in Asheville. He was like before AOL, before Yahoo, before Google. He was Google, right? And if you wanted to go online, he had a way to, dial into his server and you could go online. And he was doing it as a service, right? He wasn't charging, right? And he was a smart boy, and he, realized, when they started having, computer addresses, he signed up when they were free, NewYorkCity.com, NBC.com, GED, all those guys, he did it. And he had about 20,000 of these, right? And then when those companies started to think, oh, I got to and then find out that he had their name already, he would sell it to them for $100, right? And his kid got sick. And so the people who became GoDaddy bought his whole cache of names for $50,000, which wasn't even what he needed to pay for his kid and his family and everything. And so he did that. And within, wow, $50,000, more money I've ever seen. He was brilliant. but he had an attitude, a mindset of being poor. Now, Donnie has that same mindset. He has that same mindset that all those kids, Daddy is my, Daddy did this to me, Daddy, 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 Mommy, 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 Daddy, Daddy. No, no, sorry. Donnie's daddy, had a vision, and he spoke that vision. So, I'm a griot, right? I tell the story, right? Well, my godfather, Sensei Al Bob, of the Bob clan. We're all the Bob clan. Well, he, is a griot. So he tells the story and puts out a vision of love's co-creation, and the realization that our material world is just an illusion created by sinister forces outside our 0.00895% of perception, meaning the other rest of the universe is 99.999990985 what's going on. Now, as you ascend, you become more enlightened, more loving, more closer to love's co-creation of unconditional forgiveness and love, and that's what you want. What if you're an ascended being? What makes you happy is others happy. Why do you think Jesus is here? I met, God, I couldn't even call her what she was because she didn't even know what she was. She was just spouting off stuff from King James and didn't even know it right. She started spouting out. She called, Sensei Al Bob Satan, because he was laying it down to everybody who would listen, And anyway, so she goes, "What's your testament?" She said that to Sensei Al Bob, and he gave it to her to the point that she shit in her pants and that brown stuff came down her leg, and her supervisor said, "Hey, stupid, what's going on? Why are you shitting your pants?" Right? Because Sensei Al Bob, through the miracle of telling a story, through being a griot, that's what a griot is. It tells you truth to the point that you know it in your fiber. What Sensei Al Bob is trying to do, he is trying to get all of you, all of our relations, to be griots, to tell your story, so it can become who you are, instead of you reflecting the illusion of your avatar ugly bag of water, And all of this smart, again, everything you hear from the powers that shouldn't be, it's the opposite. So when you hear the smart house or the, smart world, or no, it's the dumb world. It's going to make you dumber and dumber and dumber because all the frequencies of that Wi-Fi and that smartphone and that smart meter and that smart refrigerator is at 60 hertz. It's going to absorb and suck your brain right onto, Satan's little server, right? And you're not getting away, baby. So right now, and see, the thing is, what counts is what your deeds are, all right? So you wave funny hats and you make people happy and you make them laugh and you make their day better and you make them happy. That's what life's about. So we're being, like what's happening on in California. That's what they call in advertising a B test. Well, you try something out, see if it's going to run, how it runs. Throw it against the wall, see how it sticks, right? Run that flag up the pole, see how it flutters, right? So they're incinerating that town, forcing everyone to live. Spielberg, all his films, he's one of those guys who drank, took the, and, because he wanted to be rich and famous and make movies. He wanted, well, if I do this, I'll be able to do, tell people the story. I'll be a griot. Well, he's not a griot. He's a bitch. Now, I can't say he's not a griot because he's a great storyteller. And in every one of his movies, there's a metaphor of what's really going on. And he's telling about 9% of the truth, right? So, but in the context of what the powers that shouldn't be want to get into your cerebral cortex is saying this is how it is and I can't do anything about it. And not really. But everything he's ever made is like pretty cool. Especially that he had this TV series called Taken, I think it was called. And it really showed that, what was going on, and NBC had a thing told, about, this guy named John Gardner, who was it was like, just like the movie Oh Lucky Man. He graduates from college with his girlfriend, and they're going to They both got jobs in D.C. She's going to work for Jackie Kennedy. He's going to work in a congressman's office. That young smart crew is going to come in and do all they can, and they see what's going frigging on. It was called Dark Skies, right? Go look at that one. And it was only on for 2 seasons because it was too friggin' real. Scared the shit out of people. Where V, which was in the 70s, kind of told the story. It was just like that guy, what's his name? The guy, he did this movie, They Live, right? And, that was great because the aliens came here, the reptiles came here, and basically were dumping all their crap on our little planet and, taking everything of value, like our soul, away. And you couldn't see them as reptiles. You had to put on these sunglasses. And then you saw it, right? Every billboard, every magazine said, consume, 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 die young, die young. Do what we say, do what we say, obey, obey, right? And that's kind of, if you're watching TV, if you're on the mainline media, that's what's going into your cerebral cortex. And, if you light your house with diodes and you have a smart meter, well, they are bringing a discrete digital signal into your house and blinking it a zillion times, 60 hertz, straight into your brain. Well, you can be extremely pissed at Trump, but you should be extremely pissed at yourself because you should be running for office or, getting more people to watch Sensei Al Bob's Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob. Meaning, being pissed, that's what they want. They want you pissed at Donnie because he's a single target. He's a chump. He's Donnie Chump. Go look at J-Box's, the videos. J-Box, he's such a sad creature. He didn't bring forth. Sensei Al Bob allowed him to put him on his channel as a show, just like I Love Lucy appeared on CBS. Now, Desi Lou, Desi was Desi Arnaz, Lucy's husband. Why did she marry that guy? Because he loved boxing her box, right? She had an amazing set, right? And they were just twin flames. And for the first 20 years of her life, of their marriage, everything was for I Love Lucy. That's what he loved Lucy. It was all about I Love Lucy, make her better, build her brand. He understood this. He was the first guy to do a TV show with a live audience, a comedy, not a variety, but a comedy show, right? And he did the same studio, and he would do 3 or 4 shows, and he would have 3 cameras, just like they shoot things today. Because before her, they just had 1 camera. That was it, 1 perspective. They had 3. Anyway, bottom line, he was a smart businessman. So instead of letting CBS own that show, he kind of rented it to them and owned its proper tour. That's how they bought a movie studio, RKO with a mountain, whatever that's called. And they did, all these amazing movies, like all of, whatchamacallit, A lot of movies. Paramount. What was the name of the movie? I have to take my coat off. Oh, my little shoulders. All us Bobs were electricians, electrical cowboys. And you know, instead of having a rope, we had wires. Guys, don't you know that everything, it's scripted? You know, look, there were a couple good Republicans in there, and Donnie, you know, why did he have the show, The Apprentice? It got him ready to do that same thing to anybody in front of his way politically. And why does everyone roll over like a bitch? Because that's part of the script. And why are they going to go after him now? That's part of the script. Because they're not going after the problem, you know. And this Exxon or Q or whatever that guy is, you know, it just reminds me. Sensei Al-Bob was just telling me about, you know, it reminded him of the Who song. Don't get fooled again. Or rebranding, just like the Roman Empire was failing and had pushed out into the hinterlands, just like we have 200 wars going on right now, you know, expand our empire. And that was, you know, Rummies and the boys, Dick. And if my name was Richard, I would not call myself Dick. Dick Nixon, Dick Armey, Dick Cheney, they're all dicks. I guess they just want people to know they're dicks, you know, not, you know, make it, you know, forget, you know, don't even think twice. I'm a dick, you know. Anyway, that whole thing of America's new century, it wasn't about America being great again. It was about rebranding the, you know, the empire, you know, the Reich. That's what the Reich is. It's the Roman Empire, you know. The Third Reich, third time around. First was the Roman Empire. Then it was the Holy Roman Empire. Then it was the Third Reich, right? We're now on about the Sixth Reich, you know. Anyway, so the thing is not to let yourself be distracted by shit like Donnie Chimp. So, like I said, J Boxes, you know, took all of Sensei Al-Bob's stories and put them on his channel, you know, hoping that it would go as viral as his, you know, brainless McDonald's. You know, that went millions, right? And he gave most of that to his ex, who still is rejecting him after 7 years. You know, Freud said you do the same thing over and over again. That's a sure sign that you are fucking nuts, you know. Now, he can be a good father, which he should be. But, you know, they were here for at least a year and a half when you know, Sensei Al-Bob kind of was around helping J-Box, you know, assimilate into the school. And he could have gone down and hung with his kids every day. He didn't. And the only times he hung out with his kids was about 3 or 4 times when Sensei Al-Bob took him there without telling him, and then stopped in front of the house, rang the doorbell, said to the ex, "Hey, J-Box is in the car. Let's, you know, can he play with the kids?" And she was like, "Yes, get him out of the house. I can't take it anymore." Because she basically, allegedly, homeschools them. So what I want you to do is go look at Sensei Al-Bob's stream, and there's a couple of her things up there. Or go to J-Box's thing, and when you go to J-Box's channel, leave him a little letter. You know, the one that really that captured you guys was Sensei Al-Bob's story about the old crone. And tonight, kids, 7 p.m. or between 7 and 8, you know, Sensei Al-Bob, he's not a linear guy. You know, he's not like stuck to a watch, but he tries to get there. Just like, you know, Cowboy Bob here tried to, and I'm Cowboy Larry Bob. Did any of you folks ever see the TV show Stargate? You know, and that went on for 10, 11 years on Sci-Fi Channel. Well, that was brought to you by the powers that shouldn't be, to tell you, hey kids, this is what's going on. This is why we went into Iraq in '91, Desert Storm, to gather up hardware. That was because, you know, Iraq used to be Babylon. All the secret magic science is still buried out there. And World War One was about the assimilation of that knowledge by the empire, right? That's what that World War One was about. It was about, again, rebranding, right? And so they went in there. Now, you know, the U.S. of A. and England and France sold Saddam all his weapons, even his weapons of mass destruction. We sold those to him, his chemicals, his nukes, his big cannons. That big cannon that was like an ICBM was, you know, that could, you know, basically loft a tractor trailer into outer space and hit anywhere in, you know, 700-mile range, was built by our friends in Germany. So, you know, it's just like Saudi Arabia. No, they have F-16s, F-15s. They are our buddy Air Force, you know, our surrogate Air Force, not ours, but the powers that be in the imperial state of slavery. And you can't make anyone great because all of material industrial illusion is global. You know, we're global, right? And people becoming nationalistic, which means everybody wants to be Adolf Hitler. And Adolf wasn't a bad guy until they rewired his head. You know, he was quite an interesting guy, but the person that he became after Kristallnacht, and not so much, right? And when Donnie came down that escalator and said, "There's some really bad dudes. All those Mexicans, they're not sending me us." No, they're sending what the Statue of Liberty kind of said. Send us our poor, your suffering, your da da da. And most of the people came here through Mexico weren't even Mexicans, right? And I don't know if you've ever known any Mexicans, or do you just spit on them without knowing them? But I've lived a number of places where Hispanic folk live, and they're the best neighbors you could ever have. They give you the shirt off the back because they don't even, it's quite interesting. You will see in times like Christmas time when the Salvation Army has the pot out there, see who puts the money in. The rich people come out of the store and they'll put pennies in there. Poor people come out, they go down into their pocketbook or their wallet, and they put folded money in there because they know one day they might need that. Poor people, they just do it because that's what liberals are, people who feel guilty about being scum. They didn't do anything. Look at what what America was between the 1880s and 1950 was a very nice collective, almost like England or France or Germany or Ireland. I mean, it was a collective of different political points of view. I mean, the communists were a viable part, but they weren't communists like over in Russia, because communists over in Russia weren't communist. What they were state capital, and that's what the Make America Great is all about, turning it into a political. Well, we already are a plutocratic state, but and we're already, you drive around America, go into little towns. This is incorporated village of incorporated. That means it's a corporation. That means every county, every state. When '08 happened, Sensei Al Bob was in Florida taking care of his dying parents for about 2 years. And he had been taking care of his dying parents for 28 years. When he came back from Ireland in 1980, and he hadn't had really anything to do with his family from birth until he lived with them a couple of years. Then they shipped him off to a seminary. Then they shipped him off to the Winchendon School for boys, the richest, because they wanted him to be programmed to be a rich boy. Well, he's our smartest one. If we send him to this really good school, because we have friends who will pay for it for us, he'll become one of those inside guys, and he'll be a billionaire, and then he'll take care of us. Well, I took care of him without having to be a billionaire. And when I was there, I just happened to be at that school where the richest, most powerful families sent their boys. But just that 4 years that I was there, all the teachers were young men who were trying to stay out of the Vietnam War, and being a high school, being a teacher in a prep school gave you a get out of Vietnam card. And so we had the most amazing teachers who then, once they got there, realized that, these are the richest people in the world. If we change, it was like Aristotle, if we can change these, what he did with Alexander. I mean, Alexander conquered the world not to because he was a big shit mofo. It's because he wanted to unify everyone in his closest concept of what Aristotle had for him, of love's co-creation. Look, he went into every town and married the chief's daughter and then put her in charge. Go see that movie. And that movie with what's his name, the girl who plays his wife from one of those places. That girl was a little girl in our homesteads in Lucky 13 in Lower East Side. Her mother had nothing. She was living in a cardboard box. The crew, we took over buildings and put people in, got them to fix it up to code. I put, legal electricity so everyone had a meter so they could show the electric bill when the marshal came to throw them out. Because that little girl had a safe place to be, and it wasn't just her mommy's apartment in that building. No, we had a garden, we had school, we had a theater, we had all these things that everyone could take part in. She did, and she was also the princess in Men in Black, the second one, right? When she was found working in a pizza parlor, and the delivery boy had two heads, right? Whatever her name was. County office, courthouse, etc. says, corporations, why do you think I write name as I do? Yep. Hey there, James. How was last night? You have a good time? And hey, baby, I saw everyone should go on to Jamie's website or YouTube site or whatever site she's at, because it is great. She's always walking out, in the countryside where she lives, and she's got her dog. And Jamie, I'm a dog boy, and dogs don't want to be the alpha dog. You have to be the alpha dog, and not by putting a collar and dragging them. I've always had dogs, right? And it's just like children. You got to teach them from the minute they pop out. And what dogs want is to have a continuity where they feel safe. They know they're going to be fed every day at this time. They know they got their little kennel, which is like their cave they can go into. They know, they know. But when you kind of are like, oh, doggy, what do you want to do? No, doggy doesn't want to be asked, what do you do? And that's when the doggy becomes a bitch. And especially if you have a little dog, like, one of those, oh man, because that dog is so little, it has to be loud. And if you let it be, it'll shit everywhere and make you clean it up, And a dog is a dog, and the dog wants to do what it was bred for. So figure out what it was like, I figure out every time I get a dog, and I've always had a dog until I got sick. And then I couldn't work, and I couldn't even buy myself food, let alone another animal. So, it's like children. If you can't take care of a child, you shouldn't have one, Whenever you fuck with their shit, you're fucking with their shit. And it's just what, me, Cowboy Larry, wanted to talk about. Santa Cowboy Larry was, you have to be the griot of your life. You have to tell the story. Don't go on and on about what happened in the 5th grade and how some bully beat you up, because bullies will beat you up for the rest of your freaking life. Meaning, when I was in grammar school, first of all, I was taken care of by my grandma, and I was exposed to all these grandmas and grandpas and elders who did things, from the Civil War up until 1960 when they started to die. And they all took it upon themselves to teach me, eh, teach your children well, da 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 da, Crosby, Stills and Nash song, which was written by virtually everything about Crosby, Stills and Nash was Joni Mitchell. Just like everything about Albert Einstein was his first wife, and you don't even know her name. She did all the math. She got him his first, job in a university, which gave him credence to publish. And then she pushed it and made him famous because she thought, well, if his boat rots, so will mine. Well, he got rid of her because he had become a rock star, and he started getting blowjobs in the hallway. And virtually every freaking one of, I had a buddy who worked at the Patent Library. And when I was in D.C., being an anti-war guy, where we got the peace train around the Pentagon and did a nonstop shamanic ceremony around, we surrounded the Pentagon with grandmas and a woven wreath of love, which became the quilt thing when AIDS came up. But all these grandmas who made quilts, they would quilt a chunk of rope, and we would weave it shamanically around the whole thing. I mean, we had like 3 miles of quilts that we wove around it, and then we built camps. Because there were chunks of national forest, or it was in a ambiguous, still had trees, still had grass, and this federal government owned it, and it still was ambiguous enough that we could go and camp out there. And because it was all grandmas, the cops weren't going to come, and we weren't, screaming or yelling or chanting or had signs or nothing. We were just feeding, this amazing smell of grandma food went into the Pentagon, and all those Pentagon people came out. What is that smell? And they, here, have a bowl of this, sweetie. And we did that for a year and a half until the war ended. It wasn't Henry Kissinger, and it was up to Henry Kissinger. We'd still be fighting it, just like we're still fighting the Afghani war for 18 years. And that war has expanded into 200 countries. Just because Saudi Arabia is bombing Yemen doesn't mean that we're not doing it. That they couldn't do it if we didn't give them the planes. They couldn't do it unless we gave them the spare parts. They couldn't do it unless we had people there, repairing and keeping those F-15s and F-16s running. And they couldn't do it if our Air Force didn't do, in-air refueling. And they couldn't do it if they didn't have retired or Air Force personnel who's on loan dropping the bombs. And that's just one place. We're doing it in Africa. We're doing it everywhere. 200 countries we're at war with, just like Rome did. And just like Rome, they basically, their homeland collapsed because they were pumping all their money outside of the country. So they couldn't keep having bread and circus, which is LBJ's Great Society, which then broke into fast food and big screen TVs and the media that everyone's addicted to. Couldn't do that, So we are, we're about to have the granddaddy of economic and social collapse. And what's happening to California, the the real discriminate, space-based attack with energy weapons of that state, causing fires that, how can a fire travel a football field in a second? How can a, forest fire burn every house, every car, but not touch the grass or the trees? How can that happen if it's a forest fire, So, and how can a fire, again, the guy who runs Oppenheimer Ranch, best weather channel, when that was starting to happen, he has access to lots of information via weather satellite, NASA and stuff like that. I think he worked for them at some time. And he went to this satellite that was looking right at California, at the campfire and the one in South. And, once he heard about it, he went straight to looking at it. And he started looking at it within 45 minutes because I think online he's listening to everyone's fire scan, especially in California. And he got pictures of that fire within the first hour. And the smoke had gone up to space. And the infrared part of that satellite was looking at the fire, and it was burning at 30, like at the temperatures that you melt steel with. And most fires, I used to be a fireman, most fires burn at 1100 degrees, give or take. Not 30,000 degrees, So, get ready, America, because that's what's going to happen to everywhere, It's going to burn, baby, burn, because they want to herd all the population into stack and pack, And that's what Spielberg's movie about the kid who was on virtual reality, like everything sucked, life sucked. No one had a job. Robots were doing everything, so everybody was on OxyContin and really cheap booze. And they beat up their girlfriends and wives, and the kids were traumatized, and so they always had the goggles on, living in a virtual reality, playing this game. And if they won that game, they'd be a trillionaire. They'd own blah, blah, blah. And that's where we're heading, gang. I mean, that's where we already are. But these fires in California are just a B test to see if we'll go for it, we'll believe it, And Donnie keeps coming up with, he misses the mark. And then, the little wire in his head gets snapped on, and he reads, or they telegraph the script into his head. But Donnie is no different than any of this. Now, not to say, I've worked, not Santa Cowboy Larry, but Sensei Al Bob. He was a scholar. He for a good 30 years kind of went wherever he could learn something deep, right? And where he could be that little pebble into making that satanic space into love's co-creation, And there were a lot of other guys and gals just like Sensei Al Bob doing the same thing. He realized that. He knew his family was there. They would bump into each other and smile at each other because they were all wearing funny hats, right? But they needed Sensei Al Bob, so, they kind of let him wear his pajamas, let him wear fuzzy slippers. It was okay. He did the job better than anybody else, so it was okay. Okay, let's see what you guys are saying. Let's go back to the beginning. Okay, Trump. Yes, Trump, again, everything is kind of what you say is true. Trump destroyed our environment. He didn't, It was being destroyed back with Harry Truman, back with Woodrow Wilson, The last president who tried to save something was Teddy Roosevelt. Again, don't be extremely pissed at Trump, because all you're doing when you get mad at Trump, like I'm extremely pissed, you're punishing yourself, you're blaming yourself. Put on a funny hat and make people smile, and then start telling them your truth. Not I'm extreme, because you're just reading the script, gang. Don't be extremely. Trump is, do something better. Be the pebble in the pond. Change things. Don't complain. You can complain, but within the truth, All us Bobs, we don't complain. We tell a story, but we tell a lot of truth that, if it was singularly put into I'm extremely pissed at Donald Trump, would be called complaining, but no. And, your choice, no one has a choice in this politics. What was the difference between, satanic Hillary Clinton or moron Donnie Trump? No, they both work with the same guys. Because, no matter what, flavor the powers that shouldn't be offer you, it's still just like Baskin Robbins. There's only 32, you know. Yeah, Marshall, I'm right there with you. Every like oil can, you know. But that's what I got for doing the shit I wanted my whole life, and almost dying 6 times. That'll take a little bit out of you. Or dealing with, you think J-Box is the only J-Box I've ever, J-Box represents because it's a box, it represents a box. It's A, B, C, D, all the way to Z. Well, he's a J-Box. So anyway, he's not the first one I've had to deal with. And again, he is a great learning tool, patience, unconditional love, analyzing, critical. The only way you can somewhat listen is if I have, critical point, because he's, got a brain, he's got a soul, he's a sweetheart. You just have to lead him back to those things. Too bad he is stuck in his box and he just kind of goes around it. Never, he's got 4 points and a little bit between each that he just repeats, and repeats. And all you're going to do is brainwash yourself that way. And, that is the trick, is to, not be brainwashed, but to tell your story that you want to have happen. Sensei Al-Bab from birth was shown by his grandma and all her cadre how to, project the life they wanted. They came over from countries without a penny in their pocket. And as my grandma said, she lived like a millionaire without having to be one. And like when you get a birth certificate, you know what that means? You are being put into maritime law. Last night, there was this big kind of chunky guy, balding head, kind of looks like me, but little, he hasn't gone on the diet yet, And he comes from a pretty wealthy family, so that's why he was exposed to the info. And he likes the hedonist life, so he does it 24. I don't know him. I've met him a number of times at conference. He's got his stuff about what he knows about how the world runs. Especially, we had very similar paths. He was in a monastic thing. They wanted him to be a priest. I mean, I find a lot of people who are out there on the conference trail had a very similar life. But at a certain point, I took a turn, a 90-degree, to go in a different direction, where I was developing my own story rather than repeating the one, because all those guys in the conference, David Wilcox, Corey, what's his name, all of those guys. I mean, even Christopher Hedges, who's a great bud, really smart, genius, he's got it down. Noam Chomsky, all those guys got it down, but they're working and repeating the same story over and over instead of living a new story and being the example. Well, Chris, I have to hand it to, because he really, again, he on similar, he was came from a Christian. He went to he was going to be a minister. He saw the inequities of it and didn't want to just be the rich minister, so he went, started helping people, which got him into looking at really what was happening. Then he became, well, what can I really do with all the talents I have? And he became a newspaper guy, a journalist. And I did the same. I took pictures of it, and but I was more or less taking pictures of folk here in America. And when I, got to be, got the card to be a journalist. And then, I was part of a number of photographic collectives, and they started selling my pictures. I started getting gigs outside the country, and that was one of the ways I got to travel the world. You get that little thing, and you get visas to go anywhere and go see things. Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. But when they started wanting me to go to places where lots of children and women and just horrific stuff, and they just wanted pictures of horrific stuff, I said, nope, nope. I'm going to go back to New York City and be the minister of fun and make art. So, and making art is great because it is one of the best. It's like breathing that extra 20% and breathing out 30%. Okay, so now that there's 6 of you there, we're going to take just a little bit of time to go into state, right? Breathe deeply. Breathe with your conscious mind where that little squirrel is in your head where I'm really pissed. I'm pissed. I'm so pissed. That's all I'm going to be is pissed. I'm not going to be happy. I'm just going to be pissed because mommy did this and I'm pissed. And dad, I'm pissed. And I'm going to say this, Donnie, Shep, I'm pissed. No. 20% in. And every day and every way, take the piece of the earth and make it stronger by illuminating and expressing yourself in co-creation with love. I'm going to count from 1 to 3, and as I do, you're going to go into a deep, deep, deep state of conscious realization, illuminating your subconscious mind with the prana and grounding it in the chi. Breathing in the prana, the life force of your biological avatar. When you breathe out 30%. That allows you to breathe in for 20%. And when you breathe out 30%, you are breathing out more waste from your biological avatar than your urine, your feces, or your sweat. And 1, your conscious mind is totally focused on your breath. You have illuminated your imaginary mirror. That's your eyelids where you have REM sleep. But now you surround yourself with that prana and light. You're breathing it in, and every cell of that prana is going into your lungs. So you're filling up all those alveoli. Your blood is pumping that nice, rich red blood through your lungs, and it's the metal corpuscles of your red blood cells are picking up the prana, and it's carrying it electrically through your veins and your arteries and your corpuscles. And I want you to visualize this. The blood is not going blub, 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 blub. It's swirling. Zoom, zoom, zoom. And there's a swirl going against the walls of your arteries, veins, and capillaries. And inside that, another swirl of prana-rich blood is going counterclockwise, and inside that another one. And with each, the prana gets compacted down into that middle swirl, and it's like that yumminess, that goodness, that undiluted presence of love's unconditional co-creation. And it goes into every cell of your body, and it is the mitochondria. Whenever you see a film of the cell, and like they show it, and this is the cell splitting, and there's like this lightning all over the cell as it kind of splits. Well, that's co-creation. That's a visualization of co-creation. So see that lightning swirling through your blood system and covering and that's what the powers that be. That's what the matrix wants. It wants that juice that's being refined in your mitochondria. That's why it's turning you into a drone, you know? So you are focused on your breath. Your conscious mind is totally focused on your breath. The little squirrel in your head that's going on about shit that doesn't matter is gone. And all you're seeing is that super life force of love's unconditional love of co-creation bathing every cell of your body. You want to get rid of cancer. You want to get... Why do you think I'm still freaking alive? It's because of this. All of my doctors are amazed that I'm still alive. That's why they take care of me. I mean, back in the day when I was really sick, they used to put book on when I was going to die. I was in bed and I was cracking jokes with this intern, and he goes, listen, there's this bet going around when this guy's, he's like this sensei guy, and, he should have been dead already, but he's still alive. And everyone's betting on when you want to pick a time and date, it's already up to $20,000. Whoever comes closest wins. And I said, oh, I'll take some, that sensei guy is me. Oh, I'm sorry. Whenever you see J-Box realizing, I'm sorry. And my second wife had a really great saying. Saying you're sorry is not good enough, but it is a good place to start. But you have to mean it. Don't do that fucked up thing again, you asshole. Stop it. Right? Okay. So go back to, either of my chats where I do a live, guided meditation for an hour or so. And the first one, I get the whole thing done, and then J-Box comes down and shows the difference. It was, great, Doesn't like exercise. The only thing keeps me alive. It's like I get out of bed. I walk around. I rake the leaves. I sweep. But you don't have to kill yourself. You don't have to do the job in one shot. I mean, there's so many leaves around here. I've been, because once it gets winter and it snows, and if you leave the leaves there, you're going to kill yourself. Your car will never just spin the wheels, because it'll never be able to touch the ground where it might have some traction. So I just kind of, wherever the car I'm going to go, I go out every day and I rake for about, I don't know, till I don't want to rake anymore. A minute, 20 seconds, not 5 hours, but at least 20 minutes sometimes, maybe 10, maybe average 5. But by that time, John's always, if I'm doing something, his little, it's like having, being subscribed, his little bell on his head rings, and he comes out and sees what I'm doing. I make breakfast, this or that. And so he can use it to either complain or go, oh, wow, this is great, either one. And it's like it's the Huck Finn scenario. So I start doing something, and then he'll come and do it, and he'll do it until he can't stand doing it anymore, and he can say he hates it, right? But it'll be almost all done, and then the next day I'll come out and do a little bit more, and then you know what I'm talking about. Let's see. Let's go back a bit. 3 laws. Precipitation. Do no harm. Not jab includes theft or trespass. Do not fraud or mischief in contracts, signatures, more. Well, see, what has happened is They have taken a spiritual law and turned it into a financial law. And that is the crux of Babylon money magics. That's the crux of how banks and central banks, bleed us dry. So, 3 laws. Do not harm. Okay? So that means you, the slave, do not harm, but they, the master, do only harm, right? So that's that, part of that law. Let's see. Do no damage includes theft or trespass. Well, that's you, the slave, do not trespass or theft, or, like the Irish, when the potato famine hit, well, every other vegetable in Ireland was growing, and it was the breadbasket of England. But the law was, if some Irish padrone was a slave, took a carrot and stuck in his pants, they found that carrot, and he was going to chop it up and make it, some soup. Stone soup is what it was called, because they were given nothing but stones to eat. Anyway, and they were allowed to have potatoes because the Romans first thought potatoes were stones. And then they realized that, they were super duper carbohydrates. So they could give them to slaves, which would give them lots of energy to work, but not enough nutrition to stay alive. So they would work until they died at about 28, right? And then shackling them with the Catholic religion that says every time you fuck, you have to produce another slave. I mean, that was a business plan, right? Let's see. Let's see. So, well, the politicians, bankers, they sign things all the time, but they're not held to, like K-Bag, and J-Bag, they sign things, and they never live up to the word. Okay, legislates commercial code, maritime admiralty code, status acts, bills, legislation, and when you answer the name on the contract. Yeah, why do you think I'm Sensei Al Bob? That's my real name. So when J-Box, would incessantly put Al on all those videos, it made it so you guys couldn't find me, because that's not my name, especially on YouTube. And he wouldn't link it. And then when he did link it, he just has a gray circle. Well, that's what you had. No, there's a picture of the beautiful little place where I live, And he puts it in a corner where your eyes don't look. Instead of putting it over to the right, he puts it over to the left, like in the middle, so you don't even see it. And all the other things that he wants to link on, like he has my show on his channel. He has it linked with a picture of me, right? And underneath, Al's stories of the old crone, picture of me. He could have taken that same picture and stuck it there and put, that, right? But no. And you guys so complained about his incessant jabbering while I was telling the story, because that was like the first one, and you were like blown away by the dichotomy of the two of us. It wasn't until we did 30 or so and I kept saying, John is the canary in the social coal mine. And then when some of you started to realize that his incessant stupidity actually was interesting, because it was this kind of almost idiot savant saying a very interesting thing in really stupid shit language, in like third grade language, because he's stuck in his box when people bullied him and this happened to him and that happened, instead of redefining what he should be, what he could be, what he is. Let's see. You like the glasses? Well, all of my glasses come from that great fashion house, the Dollar Tree. And back in the day when I was rich and I would get glasses from the eye doctor, they'd be, $60, $70, $200. And then I immediately lose them. But every pair of glasses, and not only are they beautifully purple, but look at the side of that. That's like, whoa, baby. purple leopard skin. I love that shit. Goes along with the hat very nicely, don't you think? You want to do that. So all of these glasses, and I got piles of them everywhere because I can't see. I mean, these are the strong. They don't. I tried to go to other places and they don't make it. These are 375. That's like magnifying glass. Other places, Walmart's, the highest they go is 150 to 225. So this one, I can actually read that without having to have 5 glasses. And that's what Ben Franklin did before he invented the spectacles. He was wearing like 5 pairs of glasses. And they said, I can just put different lenses right on the same thing. Anyway. And he was a pretty smart guy because he would read something and then he would go into state. Everyone says that Edison, once Edison realized that Tesla designed everything in state, he said, well, I had to learn how to do that. So he would, because he took naps, right? And so, but he wouldn't remember anything from it. So he put a handful of quarters into his hand and he would take a nap in a chair. And when he fell asleep enough, he would drop the quarters and they would make a noise on the floor. And he would wake up enough to be in that state where if you want to remember your dreams, what you do is what the Indians used to do. Drink a glass of water before they go to sleep. They sleep about 4 or 5 hours, and they got to take a piss around 3, 4, 5 in the morning. They get up, take a piss, go back to sleep, and then all of their dreams become really vivid, and they remember everything, even the ones they did before they had to get up and take a piss. That's right, Jamie Hillier Rubies. We are all corporate fictions. That's why we have to be griots and tell our own story. Like I said, Jamie, I love your YouTubes. I try to find them. I subscribe to you. Are you in America or are you out? Is that why you're saying use and anyway, let's Jamie, let's just communicate on our communication style on the Gmail. I'll Gmail you sometime today. Okay, would actually help. And all of you guys, Gmail me at the Dude Awake 42 at Gmail, and I'd be love to have that private little. I'll do healings. I'll do. I have my friend. I have a number of my students who are in California, and they're big time in the conference circuit. I kind of took them there, and they're all like whoop-de-doo, right? And they all charge, for $35.95, and they do these, group, not chats, but conversations. And he gets, 20 to 100 people a day, paying them $35.95, and he does these clearings. Now, he's very good at it. He has learned the techniques, and again, they're not mine. These are ancient shamanic techniques, and I am kind of teaching you guys when you come to the live chats. I spent a good 10, 15 minutes meditating. That's why I'm never like on time until I am like tuned up so I can, go through this screen. Normally, I'm like sitting in front of you. You're sitting down there, and we're sitting in a circle, and then we talk about something, and then we do an exercise or we do a ceremony. So I had to incorporate all of that into this. And when I was on J-Box's channel, that's why thousands of people came to it, because I was shamanically bringing them in, and he was. He wanted me to go viral, but he hated the fact that people told him to shut the fuck up. And on the Irish Crone one, people were, so upset that he broke the continuity of the story of the trance that they were in. I mean, that's why they were telling him to shut the fuck up, is because that Crone thing, you were in a trance. You were there. You were in her place. I was sharing that with you, and he kept breaking the signal. And then I had to change, because there was no way, no matter how much I talked to him about this, he would, at the height of when I was getting to the point where you were going to get the aha experience, he would just disrupt it, take it away. So I said, well, this guy's never going to change, so I'm just going to have to use that. And that's when I started saying, hey, this guy is the canary in the coal mine. Just take a look at him. That's what's going on. That's what's happening to the general public. When 5G comes on, that's what's going to happen to everyone unless you're meditating. The only thing, that you already got your smart meter. Your house is already the internet. The internet signal of the 5G is already going through your house through the wires, right? And once they, like all around here, they're putting on every phone pole, they're putting up a 5G Wi-Fi, not internet, Wi-Fi, because it's at 60 hertz highest. If they stuck it on the, they would have to push so much juice through it that would it would turn everyone and every place into California. And they may still do that because they can. Whenever you drive around and you see the cell tower stuck on the middle of a gigantic high tension line, not your power lines, your high tension lines, the metal towers with the three wires on each side and the ground, and they stuck a frigging cell tower on it. Well, the reason they did that is that those antennas aren't just the 4G or the cell carrier. It is set up to, if they want to immobilize the population of that area, they can snap on the 5G, 60 hertz, 60 cycles, 60 frequency of your brain, and dump 500 megawatts into your brain, turn you into jello, And that's what's going on, kids. That's, forget Donald Trump. He's a distraction. Everything you think he's doing to the government, the country, it was never there to begin with. It was an illusion to begin with. I mean, look who started the EPA. Nixon. Look who started Medicare. Nixon, Before him, there were people in Congress who basically said, look, all of Europe has single-payer health care and is taking the profit out of it, so why don't we just do that? And basically, the AMA, the insurance companies, and Big Pharma said, no way, Jose. Now it's the biggest cash cow. I mean, why didn't they get rid of Obamacare? Because it's a cash cow for Big Pharma. It was one of the vehicles that brought, opiate addiction to everyone, right? Visualize. Yep. Same old, same old. Repub demo. Gary Allen wrote a great book called None Dare Call It Conspiracy. And we were both students of a teacher at Georgetown. His name was Quigley. And he was the historian. He was the psychosocial cultural forensic anthropologist of the Council for Foreign Relations, the Club of Rome, and the Trilateral Commission. And he was just like me. And he told me, you remind me of me when I was your age. And he goes, but you're smarter. I came from this family that I had to be this professor. And I did this for my mom. Well, I really, really love, learning this stuff. And I thought if I worked for these guys, I could change them. But not really, because I'm so much like them. But you come in here with your pajamas and your funny hats, and you smoke reefer in my class, which I love it because you always leave, half the joint on your desk, and I pick it up and smoke it at home. Anyway, Quigley's internet. Quigley, can't miss that name with a Q. And I would say he was QAnon, but he's dead, so he's not. And Gary Allen, None Dare Call It Conspiracy. Really great book. And also go look at after the Civil War, the guys in England, where all this stuff came from. All of these secret organizations basically came from England through Europe, through the Catholic Church. And where was I going with that? Rhodes Scholar. I mean, look at all this, Say No More, Bill Clinton, Rhodes Scholar. I mean, that's where they. I mean, Bill grew up in a brothel. His mother ran a whorehouse. Why do you think he is the way he is? You know, he was KM'd before people knew what it was. He's a butterfly, and his mother, his mother, a little psychic slip there. His wife, Hillary, she is, a high order witch. I mean, people say, I'm not the first guy to say this. I told you the story about, when she showed up, oh, you read bombs. And, the two other guys, shat in their pants and vomited all over themselves. I just got the heck out of Dodge. And Sensei Al Bob did. This is Santa Larry Bob. Larry Cowboy Bob. I'm an old cowhand on the Rio Grande. Anyway, so this is like one big stream of consciousness, and you're swimming in it. And that's why I love this YouTube thing, because if it didn't get documented like this, you can go back and look at it. And at some point, you guys are going to have to start fishing in the pond, right? Well, I mean, I've got more than 200 of these things, and I started in May. I mean, there are people who've been up since 2008, and they got 3, So I'm being prolific, as they say. Or Sensei Bob is, I'm just Santa Larry Cowboy Bob. So let's see what you guys are saying. Well, we keep chatting away. Okay. Great visualization, and you're still in the auric shield of that visualization, guys. All of this stuff is kind of going into your higher consciousness. Before you go to sleep and after you wake up, do that deep breathing, go into state, illuminate. After you illuminate your imaginary mirror, illuminate your library, go get your Akashic record, let your librarian bring it to you. Your animal totem's there to help you. Has anyone seen their animal totem yet? You can share that with us. Everyone can share what their librarian looks like, their animal totem looks like, what their guardian angel looks like, and what their higher consciousness, the sanctuary of your own choosing, looks like. Sprouted seeds, man. For a good 10 years, all I lived on, because when I was on the road, I had a backpack, and a thing I could find really easily, I go to any supermarket, and there would be tons of 5-gallon food quality, look like joint compound buckets, right? And they'd have the lids. I take 5 or 6, and I would cut out the inside part and keep the ring. I would go get some plastic, nylon screening, put it there, throw some seeds in, clamp down the thing, put water, shake it up, empty out the water, do that in the morning. I do it at night, do it the next morning, do it the next night. By the third day, it would be half full of sprouts. And then I'd scoop out the sprouts that really sprouted and the ones that were just sprouting or not sprouted. I'd leave them there, throw another handful of sprouts in. And I could take a bag, a 6-ounce bag of seeds to sprout. And that would last me 2-3 months. And that's all I'd eat was sprouts. Why do you think I'm still alive? Because the first 27 years of my life, I was a, scholar, Shinto priest. / electrician, photographer, artist, diplomat, and a bunch of other things. Party boy, dancer. You must have missed that. Yep. Any kind of seeds. I would get the smallest one so I could put as many in my little 6-ounce bag that would be in my my pack. And I had all kinds of things like that. That took up the least space in my... that's why I was a hammock boy. I had one of these really great military nylon hammocks that were great. I bought this one that the Marines had that was nylon and it had a screen over it, like, and then a little, tent over it. And now they sell them at Dick's for $500. I bought that sucker for $10 in a Army Navy store in Boston. They don't have Army and Navy stores like they used to. The corporate world has taken that world over. Anyway, and I was totally outfitted, and I would constantly run into guys who were like me, hobos. And they were all GIs, either from Korea, World War II, Korea, or Vietnam. And, we'd sit around the fire and I would listen to their stories and I would tell them griot stories that would help them. I tell them about the Greek centurion. And that's really a Roman word, but the fighters, centurion basically means mercenary. Kick-ass guy who will kill anybody for you for money, right? That's what centurion means. So, and I like mixing metaphors. When I say Greek centurion, if you kind of know what it is, you go, what do you mean? That's a Roman centurion. No. So anyway, and that's why I just kind of, this is a stream, right? I am the pebble in the pond. So let's see, what else are you saying here? Oh, yeah, it's just being blippy. Because, everyone can vent. I'm a shrink. Vent all you want. But I'm going to tell you the 411 of what it's about because that's what Bob is here for. Not to enable your venting or your spleen or any of the above. And that's, when J-Box would throw me out, at the beginning I thought I should stick with this guy. He's really off the hook. So I would take 10 hours and talk him down. And, I'm sorry, and then it'd be okay for a few days or a week or a month. And then at something, he would throw me out. And that day, the first time he threw me out and I went was the day after the election where Donnie got in. And he basically thought that his video on his channel, or my video, or it's his, because he did a lot of, he's really good at that production shit. Go look at Donnie Chump. Yes, I'm starring in it. Yes, you can't take your eyes off of me, but, or off of Sensei Bob, Sensei Owl Bob, not just Sensei Bob. He's not just a Bob, he's an Owl Bob. And all you folks out there at the Bohemian Grove, you know what I'm talking about. So he thought that video caused Donald Trump to get elected. Poor guy. And he got so upset about it that he threw, it's your fault. You did that. You did it too well. You blah, 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 blah. And I thought it was hilarious. Go see it. He still got it up there because, 20,000 of you guys has taken a look at it, and he's making 35 cents on it. Tell me if I'm right or wrong, the amortization of YouTube is really frigging low, right? Even the Irish Crone that's up to 90,000 K, what does that make him? $3 a month? Not much. Not easy. I'm not worrying about that. And the fact that it's still up there and people are seeing it would be nice if he could, basically connect, what do they call it? Link. So people could just visually go, because you don't have to put my little circle, or you could put that, but right underneath it, Dreamy Dreamland was sent. If you liked this, you want to see more of this, go to Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob. If he did that, which he could do, because he's done it for his wife and his kids and everything else, and he does it, on all of my programming on his channel. Every one of those, he has a box with my face, and underneath it, if you want to hear more of Al's stories, and he calls it Dreamtime. I called it Dreamtime because I told a story about the Aborigines in Dreamtime and what that meant. And Dreamy Dreamland is a totally different thing. Dreamtime is an Aboriginal thing. And by him using it, he is putting so much, indigenous stuff in there. And that's so it will make alive. So when he's always going on about his parents and him wanting to be a movie star and all of that, all his angst will be amplified a zillion times more. If he wanted to be in better shape, he should basically get rid of all of my videos, or and take all of that stuff down, saying Dreamtime, where he's linking to his own my show on his channel. If he took that down and linked all of my shows onto this channel, Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob, his psychic energy would clear up a good deal, because all that is doing is being a psychic mirror of whatever he says. Meaning, if he were to, and that is the thing about being a griot. You tell the story. You tell your story the way you want it told to manifest the best. He tells his story to manifest the worst. All he does is go about, how he's miserable and he wants everything to end, and why is there's no sense to life. And you say that shit, that's what you're going to have. Me, I talk about my whole reason to be is to make people happy, so I will be happy. My whole reason to be is in every day and every way. I take the piece of love's co-creation and I bring it into what I do with joy. So even though I'm a homeless guy living on $400 a month, I'm living like a millionaire. I told a story about how Sensei Al Bob bought this hat, took the last, $12 he had until mid this month, and he bought this hat. And anybody who wants to give me a gift, I haven't really figured out how to, do a GoFund or Patreon, and every time I look at it, it looks like the powers that be take their cut, do more to control what I'm saying. So, if you get a hold of me at Gmail, the Dude Awake 42 Gmail, we can have a little conversation. I will give you a P.O. box I set up that you can send me gifts. Like a nice, the things I don't go to that P.O. box very often. It's the other side of the universe. But when I do, it's full of notes and hand-drawn, not things got from Hallmark, but pictures that people draw. And it's just like, that's like my lifeblood. Stone Soup. Yep. So what was the story that was told to you, Esoteric Dragon, about Stone Soup? Tell us. Plus, I love our chats here, but I kind of want you guys to expand a little more, into the deeper storyline, because that's what's going to make your life better. I'm here to teach you guys to be the griot, because, Sensei Al Bob ain't going to be here forever. I'm going to be here until you don't need me anymore. And my job that I was sent here to do, and if you go read my novel on xratted.blogspot.com, you will see that story of me as being an angle, And, so what is an angle but a German, fighter back before the days of Rome, right? They were basically druids and bards, but they were in Germany, right? It's just like gypsies. They're everywhere, right? So, and they're all from the same family. The most of them are, it'll pop into my mind. But anyway, where should we go with that? Oh, yes, you guys need to be griots. Stone Soup. Any kind. Tony Bro. Chickpeas and lentils, yes, to sprout. Very good to sprout. Make good soup, too. But, beans, all those things are meant to be sprouted. Look at beans. You got to boil them, cook them, soak them. It takes a real art form. Only Hispanic people know how to do beans. Yep, that's how to sprout. Like I said, food grade joint compound buckets are really great. Throw a handful in there, put the screen on top, just put water in, empty it out, leave it alone. Like she said, in a kind of dry, warmish but not too hot, room temperature kind of place. And within 3 days, you'll have a whole from a handful of seeds, you'll have a whole bucket of green sprouts that are yummy, which the crappy things you buy in the supermarket, which are dead, cost you $1.50, if not $3. Who are we talking about that I should be friends with? Well, get Mr. Drumsend on the chat. I mean, guys need. I love you on the chat. You're my family, but we need to expand it to guys like that. We could, if everyone knew or watched somebody's YouTube channel who was as groovy as that, as you say, and had them come to this chat, just think what we fucking would have. Unbelievable shit, right? And we would change the freaking world. We're changing the world right now. Haven't you noticed it? Virtually everything, so I look at everything. I have, I've been a scholar for freaking 50 years. I got some serious connections who, like you guys, constantly are jabbering to me. What do you think of this? What should I do? Blah, 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 blah. And I respond because I've known them forever. They're my buds. They're my students. And as long as I'm here, that's my job, is to interface, wearing funny hats and making people smile and be when people hang up on this chat, right? All of you guys, when I say I got to go now, like it's an hour and 31 minutes and 57 seconds. So we're going to go before 2 hours. But when we spend that last 5 minutes telling how much we love each other, you and I hang up and you turn your device off, every single one of you feels great. Every single one of you has a smile on your face. Every one of you goes forth with love's co-creation in your heart. And you make it through most of the day until something really pisses you off. And then you can come here and vent for the first 5, that's what we're going to call it. The first 10 minutes of the chat. If you want to vent, you better get there, be square, and vent. Just like the first guy who was on there. Who was the first guy? Let's see. Let's go all the way back. Marshall. So if you want to vent like Marshall did, the first thing was, what did he say there? Said something like, I'll tell you what Trump destroyed our environment because it makes his heart go pitter. He's venting, and then he keeps venting for at least another few chats here until he goes, oh yes, okay, I'm supposed to be, oh, I can breathe, okay. Yep. And then he starts cracking jokes, which is one of Marshall, along with Buddy Bud and Miss Disco, and along with all of you. You all, SO Track and Mike, you all have Tony. You all have Tony the Kid. I used to be the kid for the long, and then everyone died, and I became the old guy. I don't know how that happened. I guess I have to start doing sprouts. Yeah, I think I have to. Anyway, let's see. I am sure John will throw them out if I start doing them, because John Box, ooh, poor guy. So, homework assignment, kind of go, throw art up on the board of my YouTubes of Sensei, Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob. Throw a dart up there, see the whole thing, or zip through it, see what parts you get the best. Start, right? Any information that you can take and go look at something else, go Google it, go on YouTube, whatever, and start building your own database. Right? All of you guys, I'm sure, have your own database, because I'm looking at your streams and stuff, and I'm looking at your auric energy. So you're this is the next step. That's ascension. Next step up. Next step forward, instead of being stuck or going backwards. So then go off and find people who will be good family members, who will really, wow, like the guy you were saying, well, boy, Sensei Al Bob and this guy they could, no. If we all get together under, the light and love of love's co-creation, yeah, and we're already doing this. I mean, from my observation, we have changed the world already. I mean, people are talking about the things we're talking about in a way we're talking about in the chat. Up until we started talking about it, and I kept going on about ascension rather than, whatever. That word has come into the thing. When I started talking about, the 40 days and 40 nights of the window, people started talking within that construct, and it's not me, it's us doing this. All 216 of us. So the other thing we need to do is really start peppering John Box, right? Go look at his stuff and make comments about, why aren't you linking, why aren't you making it easy for people who come on here? Because go read the thing, he took out the place where you can comment about videos on half of my videos. You can't leave a comment, He's the only guy who can. And each one, he goes on and on for paragraphs about how everyone was mean to him. Give him the 411, Tell him to link, because I keep, every time he wants me to sign a contract, I put in there that he's going to link everything that I did on his channel, link my show on his channel to my channel. Really hasn't done it. I mean, he's done it in the most convoluted ways. Instead of having me at the top of his video things, I'm like, in the middle somewhere. You got to go through like 300 people who are talking about their polka dot socks before you can even, who is this dreamy dreamland guy? I mean, people just fly right by it. So give him the 411. Try, I'm here for a reason to try and help John, because, John, if I could, you might hit him up on, why don't you let Sensei Al Bob help you be the channel that you want to make money on? And not just him be the star, because it's, he already has his own channel where he is the star. And if he is going to be on your channel, well, it's going to be his channel on your channel. That's all it is. It's his show on your channel, And if you really want success, John, you have to make it so people can go from that show that he has on your channel immediately. It's like, what's that thing when you watch something and then if you don't push anything, something else comes in its place? Meaning, that's how he should have it set up, right? So kids, go bug John Bug, because I can't. Because I live here. If I make any kind of, he gets upset. The only time I can really talk about it is I write it into the contract, He wants me to do something instead of, if he'd only realize that I do all, I make him meals, I buy and pay for with my limited resources all the food that he eats, unless his mother gives us some food. And why I'm sticking it out here is because he really, really is, he is more what's destroying our environment than Donald Trump. And he's not, because of just his angst. And not so much that he's like, no more than any of us who live in the material world who buy shit, destroying the world. Now, we could buy shit, people were buying shit for the last million years, but it's only been the last, 100 years that we've had this, and I gave the Lakota story of the monster of mass consumption, go back and see that one, the story of plum and corn. Anyway, I'll tell more stories of that nature. You know what I'm going to do? Tomorrow, Sundays, because it's like church. Priest or pedophile, blah, 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 blah. People who are control freaks, kill themselves first, blah, 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 blah. Everything I say at this moment in the last minute is blah, blah, blah. That means nothing. Nonsense. There he is, John Boy. There's John Box. Let's see what John Box has said. Let's see. I promote it as much as possible. Yes, everyone should go to John's channel and download my shows. And if John blocks that, it shows that he's not very supportive of saving the earth or his own life. So then John says, I promote it as much as possible. And then John says, all of your subscribers are directly from my work to film, edit, and promote your videos. Yes. Everyone wants to be the best one. No, not me. I'm just me. And I keep telling folks, if you're a griot, you just tell the story. You know, I have an egoless ego. Yes, I have an ego. So when John hurts me, when John screams at me, when John, and you saw a little bit of it yesterday morning, and I cut it off. I could have just put the phone down and let him go because he went, and, you know, but I don't do that, you know. Let's see. Nonsense, little stuff that doesn't matter. We get along really well. It's true, you know, because John, inside of John, is a good person. It's the neuroses of the traumas that he's experienced, but he doesn't talk about anything but those traumas, and so he constantly rebuilds, you know, makes it stronger. If he were to tell the story of what he wants his life, like yesterday, we watched the movie. He reminded me about the book, The Secret, and he had it on his phone, and we watched it. And I wanted to watch it together because it reminded me that, yeah, this thing is pretty good. Yes, it's like a scam, but the information in it is really good. And that's propaganda. You know, propaganda has like 80% really good information. The other 20% is trying to twist your head. So I wanted to sit down there with John, but, you know, John couldn't, you know, do it. And I was watching it on his phone, so it was kind of forcing him to want, you know, at least be in the room until he realized he could just take the phone away from me. So, which he did. And then I, you know, basically Googled, you know, this, you know, The Secret, and listened to it twice, you know, before I went online. You know, John, we're all in a box. We live in a material world that is a sandbox. It's not real. We're here to ascend. And if all you can talk about is being rich and famous and all the 20 years that you've done this, that, and the other thing, and it's terrible and miserable, and, you know, no, you're in a box. Your ugly bag of water is, you know, in the sandbox, making it sand into mud. And John, if you go back and see everyone's comments right here, they love you. They're not against you. You know, I love you. You're my friend. I don't give up on you. You know, no matter how many times you throw me out, how many times you scream at me, how many times you're mean and say cruel things to me, you know, it's all I can do is say, what can I do to make this guy's, you know, help this guy? And as my mom would say, John, you can drag a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. Well, I'm not giving up on you, buddy. You know, I'm ready to go across the country with you, which would most people go, no, don't do that. You know, he'll throw you out in Minnesota and you'll freeze to death and, you know, you'll be totally, you know. I'm only going when I know that it'll be safe to go, number one. Number two, I'm only going because I want to do a cross-country trip with you and put it on YouTube. Everyone would love that. You want your YouTube channel to go viral. If you let me help you be the channel you can be, John, you'll be bigger than any YouTube channel at all. And if you give me 40% of what that is, then I can at least live a little bit, instead of existing on $400. But the monetary thing is, I live like a millionaire. I just have $400 a month, And about a fifth of that, John, I spend on food for the both of us. And I try to make whatever you want. One day you want to eat meat. Next day you want this. The next day you want that. I go get it, You didn't want to eat any meat because it kills animals, and you didn't want to eat carbohydrates because it makes you fat. Well, I went and I made a nice vegan meal. Oh, I'm not going to eat it. No, I understand. I'm almost your housewife, I understand what housewives, they clean the house, they make the dinner. The husband comes home and, I can empathize with that. Mm-hmm. So you put a bunch of these things in a row, and I don't understand them. And you are amazing storytelling. Yep. I promote your channel. Okay, kind of. Did you work to film all your videos? Yeah, I hold the no one else is holding the camera in my hand. No one else pushes the button that says go live, and no one's here but me, except when you kind of interrupt the flow and break in, which is fine because then you're part of the chat. Obviously. Boo, 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 boo. And you have loved ones, and we all have loved ones that we're responsible for. But instead of, right there, the tense and the text says that it's a drudge. You'd rather not do it. You'd much rather being the rock and roll star, and the fact that you had to be responsible is why you didn't get to do anything you really wanted to do, No. We are all responsible for people we love because we love them and we want to see them happy. And when they're happy, why do I do all this stuff for you, John? Is to try and make you laugh, make you happy. Why am I wearing this? Why did I really buy this hat? Yes, I bought it because I went to a hospital and I wanted to make sick people laugh. But why am I wearing it here? Because I want everyone on this chat to laugh. And why am I wearing it around the house? I want you to laugh. Well, John, paying to go to LA, you're going to have to pay the money anyway. If you're going to go stay in a hotel, the cost of me, of you getting, 2 queen-size beds rather than a king-size bed is like almost nothing, like $10 more, if that. Every time I went to a motel and had people stay with me, they didn't charge me anything more than what I was paying for the motel room, right? You're going to have to put money in the gas tank, right? And basically, if we go across the country and I'm with you, you're going to have somebody to keep you company. When I worked in hospitals, I worked in geriatric hospitals, and I worked in hospitals with people who had issues with substances and neuroses, and the people who had families that were well-to-do would see my talents and said, we have someone else in our family, and you can keep this job, but can you just go over to their house and make them a meal and spend a few hours with them and listen to them and, talk to their doctors with your opinion of what it is. I did that for about 3 years, and I had somewhere between 2 and 5 of those clients, along with my job as scholar, and along with my job working in these hospitals. And I would make more money because people would pay me $1,000 a week just to pop in on their loved ones because they didn't want to do it or couldn't do it, and make them a really wholesome meal like I do for you, John. Every time I make you food that I eat also, you ask if I've pissed in the pot or if I, crapped on the fork. You are fearful of everything. No, I don't have myself to worry about because I don't worry about myself. I'm here to serve, John. I'm here to make everyone who comes in contact with me makes them see a little bit more. It gives them space that they might think differently about their life. That's what I'm here for. Not to worry about myself. I don't worry about myself because love takes care of me, buddy. Oh, wait a minute. What did he say? I never talk about wanting to be rich, is all I am saying. I don't even know what that sentence means. It's almost like one of Donnie Chump's tweets. And that's what I keep saying, John. You need to take a step forward. Our lives need to be little baby steps forward, not being stuck in the box, not, reliving the past, you've been trying to get back with your ex for 7 years. He continually says, no way, Jose, don't want to do it. Not, and you go to visit your kids and you say or do something that, tries to revisit that old time and she throws you out. I mean, now you kind of know what it feels like getting thrown out, but you never connected with anybody else's angst or grief. All the things that I go through, I don't see them as suffering. I see them as education. What about, well, you're going to have to eat too, John. And if we went together, instead of eating restaurant food, I would go to the supermarket and get an onion and get a carrot and getting a this and a getting that and spend, like when you were in that motel where the guy died next to you, when your wife threw you out of her house in Texas because you kind of annoyed her. When you were in that hotel where the guy died next to you, that night when the guy died next to you, you ordered, as you put it, really expensive food, right? Well, instead of ordering really expensive food, I would make you the kind of food that I make that would cost us together maybe $3 to $5 a day. So instead of spending, so how much that night did that really expensive food cost? And let's see, what's your response, John? You told me that when your ex threw you out of her house with your children, after you had stayed there about a week, and you did everything in your power to help them, and it was so, you didn't, it was all you were doing to help them, help your son read, and because you helped him to read, that one day he's not going to have dyslexia, and you were trying to, you couldn't eat any of the food you wanted to because, and it was so difficult because you were there. It was like nothing. You couldn't think about sex, and you just had to. Oh, it was so hard on you. And then you said things about your wife being fat, and she threw you out, and you had to go to a motel. Which that motel, a guy died next to you, and you told me that. And you told me that you were waiting for the food, the expensive food to come, and the guy, and that was the first time you ever saw a dead guy in your life, and that was the first time you smelled dead guy, and so in the live chat you said, no one died next to me. Then you said, that was before I knew anyone was dying in the other room. And that right there, my family, is the perfect example of someone not being able to make that first. John, you want to know what the first little step is? Is to realize, that you make the world that you experience, that you can change your life. You can have whatever you want. You did it when you were doing that, when you were really listening to The Secret, because that video, that book, is full of really right on stuff. Right? Of course, they're trying to sell the book, the video, the T-shirt, the whole thing, which is fine. It's all good. I understand. I myself, from all the teachings I got, all of my teachers said, listen, buddy, you can't sell this stuff. People can gift you things. People can take care. The universe is going to take care of you way more than. It's like when I had my healing practice in New York, and between 1974 and 76, end of early 77, it was in Wall Street, right? And the first person I worked on, I lived in a building where the ground floor was a gambling den. The next floor they sold pot. Next floor they sold cocaine. Next floor they sold heroin, and I lived on the top. And it was like Quasimodo's bell tower. I mean, it was like 3 floors with all these platforms, and because they had a steam engine in the basement, and it was a factory back in the day. Anyway, and I lived up there, and instead of trying to clean all that grease out, I just had my friend come spray polyurethane on everything, and it was like a Bruegel painting everywhere, covered with like an inch of polyurethane. And I had all these platforms. One was my kitchen, one was my sleeping loft, one was the jacuzzi, one was my healing this, one was my library. And they all had these windows looking out into the Hudson, out to the Statue of Liberty. It was like, today a yuppie would pay $1 zillion for that place. But I had it for free by only sweeping out the holes in that building and fixing things every now and then. So I lived on the top, the top. And so the bottom line was, I was walking up the steps, and I almost stumbled on this guy on the steps. And he had a Brooks Brothers suit, and he had $1,000 shoes. I knew this guy was not a bum. And I took his pulse, and his carotid pump was like what they call thready, barely there. And then I kind of took him up to the next platform, laid him out, and did cranial sacral on him, and measured all his other 9 pulses. And I balanced 2 of his carotid pulses so he wouldn't just have a heart attack. And then I threw him over my shoulder, like the firemen carry, and I carried him up the next 3 floors into my loft, and I put him on my healing table. And now I had spent the last 5 years, because I did alternative service instead of go to Vietnam, and my mentor, who he was a colonel and ran Fort Hamilton, basically said, you're going to be my protege. And he was a surgeon. I said, what are you talking about? You run this place, you're a surgeon. I'm just a piss pot guy, and I was just an orderly. He goes, that's what I'm talking about. He goes, you are the man I've been looking for the last 20 years. And he sent me for 2.5 years. That's where I went and lived in Putney, Vermont, with a Shinto priest. He sent me to a Chinese elder in Chinatown to learn acupuncture and Chinese medicine. He sent me to Davenport, Iowa, where they have the last of the kinesiology medical schools. He sent me to all these places. So within 3 years, that's why I became the shamanic, psychosocial, cultural forensic anthropologist, especially after I spent 6 months with grandfather out at the Four Corners in New Mexico, learning the Hopi elders, secrets of the universe. So, I was being the electrician, I was being the artist. That's when I was starting to do a Potato Wolf and all the collaborative artist stuff. I started having a art gallery in the Lower East Side. I, had one in Soho. That's when we did the Ear Inn, where we had the first dumpster restaurant. When I started, the Raccoon Lounge, which was my first zombie nightclub. So I was doing a lot of stuff. Anyway, but I still was studying. I was collecting my library. I was, becoming that scholar. And so I carried this guy out, and I made pretty much any kind of transportable watch table. It really sucked. They're too heavy. They're not wide enough. Blah blah blah. A friend of mine, just out of the blue, who I had taught, I had got a really great gig at the Swedish Institute on 10th Street because they were the Swedish Institute, but they wanted to kind of and so I was the alternative guy. I was teaching shiatsu and Chinese medicine, but just theory, like theology of Chinese medicine, just like breathe, how to meditate, how to make a cup of tea, and then go into the chakras and the other energetic zones. Anyway, so teaching is the best way to be better at it, and teaching and practicing. And every time I taught, I would practice on the people so that they could feel what it felt like, not just, write things on the board or say, turn to page 32. So anyway, so I picked this Wall Street guy, threw him over my shoulder, took him up, and I had this massage table that I had taken a dentist chair. This dentist came to me, and that's a whole nother story. He was like the dentist that Steve Martin played in Little Shop of Horrors. And he had me turn his dental surgery into a disco because he would be doing nitrous oxide when he was doing dental surgery, right? So he had all of these dental chairs that he had ripped out, and I took his best one, the hydraulic, that went woo woo up and down and could move different things, and I built a massage table out of a dental chair so I could raise it, lower it, so I could lower it real low so people could get on, and then rise them up to whatever height, because different techniques of massage need a different approaching people at a different angle. Shiatsu down low, Swedish kind of a little bit above your waist. Other techniques for different things. And then the part of the dental chair that would move, the feet and the head and the back, I incorporated into, and I made it really wide so people wouldn't feel like they were going to roll off, and made it really out of some amazing foam where they just lie down on the thing, they went to sleep, right? Like memory foam, but even better. So I put him on this, and I balanced all his cranial sacral energy points, and then I did some acupuncture on him, which I normally don't do, because you almost have to be. I know acupuncture well because I do shiatsu. It's the same points, but when you use a needle, it's like very powerful. Now they put moxie, which is just something that burns. When a real shaman, Chinese shaman, does acupuncture, they muscle test a person, find the right herb or combination of herbs, and make moxie out of that, and then put that on, and that energy goes right into that point. So that's what I was doing to this guy. And so, then I took all the needles out. I put him into my nice warm chicken soup jacuzzi. And then I took him out, and then I gave him a really good shiatsu massage. And then I put him back in the jacuzzi, and then put him in. I had a jacuzzi, a sports jacuzzi, that was full of cold water. I put him in that, but I would put him in a state so he wouldn't just shock up away, but it would re-energize, restart all his mitochondria that had died. And then I put him back into the warm thing. Then I did another shiatsu, but more Vedic. It was like, I took all these things that I learned and I mixed them together. That's why I'm a shamanic, psychosocial, cultural, forensic, anthropologic alchemist. You got to have all of that stuff together for any of it to work, and that's what shamans and alchemists do. And so then I took him. I had a guest room that had a very nice bed, had brand new sheets on it, and I swaddled him. Does anyone know what swaddling is? It's like when you wrap a baby up in a way that they can't move so they feel safe. They don't feel they're going to fall or drop. And that's one of the baby's biggest inertial feels, because they come out of the womb where they've been in this beautiful weightless state, and then they plop down into gravity. And one of their major fears is that they're going to, fall over. When they first piss and shit on themselves, they think that's kind of nice. Ooh, that's warm. Ooh, it smells kind of good. Ooh, that's ooh. Then everyone freaks out about it, and they are trained to be anal retentive. So anyone who always talks about, did you fart? Meaning they just farted and they're trying to put the blame on you. Boy, that smells. Did you fart? They're anal retentive. Anybody who says, did you fart? They're anal retentive. And they're holding all their traumas inside themselves. If they go, what was that noise? Is there a monster over there? That's because there was a monster in their life, and they're reliving that trauma. Instead of bringing it forth and opening up the channel and not feeling guilty and not feeling shame. And when people are blaming other people, it's because they feel shame about themselves. When people blame other people, oh, I've done this, I took care of that, I was really supportive. No, all of those things mean direct opposite. I was jealous. I wasn't supportive. I was always, worried that someone was going to do what I would want to do to them if they did it to me. So I want to do it first. That is the presence of violence in your life. And you have to get it out of yourself. And the only way you can do it is by forgiving yourself and saying, I'm good enough to release that. What's his name, who is the senator, who used to do that thing on Saturday night? I'm good enough, and I'm not, and by golly, everyone likes me. I mean, that's almost what you should be doing. If you are like, oh, my life sucks, why don't I just die? These are things you should be saying to yourself, oh, no. But John, I'm not talking about you. Didn't you notice that I switched gears? I moved forward. I took, we were in a semi-combative thing. None of this is about you, John. This is about, when I read people's palms, I was telling a story about not you, John, but the day I found a stockbroker on the steps of my loft. Right? And, and I was leading up to, why did I do it? Not because I expected anything out of it, but because the guy needed it, right? And if we get hurt easy, meaning, you have to let it go, because when you get hurt, 90% of that hurt is self-inflicted. And again, I'm not talking about you, John. I am generally talking about the human race. And basically, the human beings are like Mr. Potato Head. There's 5 eyes, 5 noses, 5 ears, 5 mouths, 5 generalistic characteristics. And then in Mr. Potato, you take one of those 5 eyes and stick it in there, and one of those, and that's where you get humanity, out of 5 different trends, you mix it all up, and that's where, we all came from Adam and Eve, right? So there was just 2 to start with. And so whenever I talk about anything, John, I'm not talking about you. When I say J-Box or what's his name or any of that, it's not about you, John. If you hear that I'm talking about you, it is because of your own self-loathing, So people say shit about me all the time. I don't take it personal because I know they're talking about themselves. And all I do is put on another funny hat to try and make them laugh. Meaning, for 10 years, I worked for the most uptight fucked up, mean, cruel people you can imagine. Extremely wealthy, desperate lawyers. You can't think of, I mean, that's what all the politicians are. I mean, they work 10 years. I mean, Chelsea, all of those guys are lawyers because they write laws, right? Now, this new crop of congressmen who, like that girl from Queens, it's going to be interesting. There are about 20 Congress people in there. It's just like when the teabaggers came in and basically, disrupted Congress. But within 5 years, they all took the money and did exactly what the powers that shouldn't be wanted them to do, just like Donald Trump. Oh, wow. We are 2 hours and 10 minutes and 35 seconds. So I'm going to take another right-hand turn and not talk about anyone's psychology per se, any specific individual per se. I am talking about the vehicles that we need to be able to basically move forward, where we can all, in every day and every way, take love's unconditional love of co-creation and make our life better. So I'm not going to talk about anyone specifically. I'm not going to talk about anyone's self-loathing specifically. And I'm not going to talk about any message that's restricted specifically. And whoever comes on and wants to put a restricted message on this chat only shows, meaning I don't know if you can put message restricted on your name, but whoever the person is message restricting basically allows everyone in the chat to think the worst of them because they're not allowing the message to be seen. So who would do that but only someone who put the worst thing they could say up there? And that's why it's a message restricted, right? And, can you message restrict your name? Well, if you did that, there would probably only be one person who would do that. And I'm not going to use any names because, so it's 2 hours and 12 minutes and 22 seconds. So when it becomes 2222 is when I'm going to say, I'm going to start saying I love you guys before it. But that message restricted guy, I first want to say is I love you deeper than love can go. Message restricted. I feel tremendous empathy for you. Message restricted. I only want the best for you. Message restricted. I want you to come out of the shadows. Message restricted. I want you to be happy. Message restricted. Message restricted. Just breathe deep. Come on, message restricted. Come on, meditate. Let it all go. Be that really great guy you are. Message restricted. I'm proud to be illiterate. Message restricted. It shows that I'm thinking. I'm not under the spell of spelling. Message restricted. But anyway, I'm taking another tack because it'll be 2222 before we know it. And message restricted can, go on and on and on while I tell the story, but it's not about message restricted. And at this minute, this moment, this second, I'm not saying anything more. But so this guy was on my amazing massage thing, and I put him in the jacuzzis, and I balanced him, and I swaddled him, and I put him in my beautiful guest bed, and let him sleep. I had made a number of tinctures that I put in all the chakra spots to balance everything about him that was out of balance. And I let him sleep. And I went to my writing table and I
rolled myself a spliff and was reading a book that I was reading and taking notes on it. And then about an hour, this guy comes out and he's wearing a suit, but not the tie. And he's got his jacket over his shoulder. And he goes, "Am I dead? Did I go to heaven? I've never felt this good. This is amazing." And normally I would, at this minute, I want to shoot up with heroin, but I don't want to shoot up with him. I don't want to drink. I don't want to, I don't want to do anything. I just want to continue to feel this way. And who are you? I said, "Well, I am Sensei Al-Bab." And I said, he goes, "Am I in heaven? Are you an angel?" I said, No, but you're feeling a lot better than you did for the last 10 years. And I kind of opened you up and looked under the hood, and I fixed everything, kind of what was in there. And you have a new beginning. You can move forward. You don't have to, and you don't have to, like, give up anything. Just do it in moderation. And the most important things. Why are you in? I go, "What do you do?" He says, "Well, I'm a a commodities trader, and I play money." I said, "Well, why do you do that?" He goes, "Well, to make a living." "Why do you make a living?" "Well, I got married, and I got kids, and I got bills." And I said, "I got responsibilities." I said, "Well, why aren't?" I said, "What do you want to do?" Because, "Well, when I was younger, I had a grandfather who was a musician that everyone thought he was wasting his time, so he got a job, but he never stopped being a magician and musician, and he played the drums, and he loved photography, and he was happiest when he did that. And his daughter became an artist, and his niece was an artist, and there were a lot of artists in their family. It was like in their gene pool, and he taught me how to play guitar, and I saw this thing on TV, a rock and roll star, and that's what I wanted to be. And then I went to school because my parents wanted me to go to school, and I did all this stuff. And then I met this woman who I fell in love with, and I had kids, and then I had to provide for them. And because of what I studied, economics, because my father said, don't study art, don't study music. It's, you'll just be a poor guy. Study economics. Go like me. His father worked in the stock market. He was a stockbroker, right? And he said, and I own properties here in Brooklyn and Queens, and he said, okay. And I said, "So you wanted to be a rock and roll star? You want?" I said, "When's the last time you played the guitar?" He says, "Oh, never, As soon as I got involved in this 20 years ago, my kids are old, and I hate my kids, I hate my wife, and I hate everything about my life. I just wish I died. That's why I shoot heroin, hoping that I'll overdose." I said, "You will find that you can't do any of that anymore. I rewired that." And he goes, "Yeah, I feel that I don't want to do heroin. And I love the way I feel right now. This is amazing. This is tremendous. This is amazing. This is amazing. This is amazing." And I said, "Good. So do you want to feel amazing like this?" And he said, "Yes, for the rest of my life." I said, "You can do your life, what you got now. You can do it, but just, be the amazing guy you are, Ooh, honey, just people have sent me things like that. One sister sent me something that was called Carbon 60, and it's amazing. I said that on purpose. And she was the only one who wrapped it. She wrapped it in a plastic bag and another plastic bag and put bubble wrap around and put plastic bag that and put it in a box. Came 100%. Somebody sent me oils and this and that. Every single one leaked and then dried out. Ick. Anyway, so do your experiments before you send me, liquid substances that will go ick. Anyway, back to the story of this guy. So I said, "Come on, let's go downstairs," and where my kitchen and my dining room was, and we made a cup of tea, and I had these great anisette cookies that my grandma made for me because she was still alive, and I would, pull them out for special occasions, and these are amazing. This is amazing tea. I said, "From now on, only drink tea. Forget the vodka. Forget." I said, "How do you know I smell? I drink vodka so no one can smell it." I said, "Buddy, I got to know you intimately. I could, when I opened certain chakras, all you could smell out of your skin was vodka. So anyway, I said, just tea. And I gave him a bag of the tea. I said, I showed him how to brew it, how to steep it, how to pour it, how to drink it. I showed him just what my sensei taught me. And then as we're going, he's going down the stairs towards the front door, and there's a little table with a picture of Vishnu and my teacher next to him and my grandma, and she's like in the middle. And there's a vase of flowers that I change pretty much every day, and a little thing of incense that you don't have to burn, but you can smell, and a little bowl that I either throw my keys in or whatever, right? And he goes, before he gets to the door, he turns around when he's like on the landing where the door is, and he goes, well, what do I owe you for all this? And I said, the price is what you value this as. So whatever you think it's worth, just put it in the bowl. And I said, I love you, and you want to come and visit, just come up here, knock on the door, And I said, by the next to the bowl, I've always had business cards. It's like one of my forms of art. So I said, take one of my cards and put whatever you want in the bowl. And so I just turned around and went up to my reading and writing table, which I kind of copied from my Akashic record of my library. It's my library. And, I went to it. And the door closed, not loud or not crash, not just a nice, respectful close. And, I read and wrote and went down to have some more tea. And it's on the same level as the front door. I looked over, and the guy left 5 Benjamins, right? And that's what he thought of it. That's probably what he had in his wallet, right? So, the next day, he doesn't show up, but knock, 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 knock on the door. I'm thinking it's him. I go down there. I open it. It's another guy. He goes, Bob sent me. He said that you can help me. I don't want to do heroin anymore. I want my life back. I want to make that first step. I want to take that. And he starts weeping. And another guy in Brooks Brothers thing and not, totally pressed, totally spec, looking good, looking like a movie star, totally ripped, every muscle, every hair. So he's so cool. People think, oh, this guy's cool. Oh, he must be cool. He's the coolest. But he wept and said his life, he was miserable. All he wanted to do was die. And that's why he was shooting heroin, because he was hoping to overdose. And I said, won't that, are you married? Yes. Do you have any kids? Yes. I said, you die, you're going to leave them all alone. And he goes, well, I don't care about them. I don't care about anybody. And if I overdose, it'll embarrass my parents. That's what I want. So he's living in the past. And he can't even love the people he loves. I just buy them stuff. When I feel guilty, I buy them stuff. I bought my daughter a new car, and now all she wants next year is another new car, So I said, come with me. So I take him to the kitchen. We have a nice, I make a nice verbena lemon chamomile tea, and a few other little things to like calm him down. And then I kind of bring him up to my healing platform where the table and my herbal stash is. Oh, we've gone, boy, last time I looked at the frigging phone, it was 2:20. It's now 2:23:41. I have to finish the story. So, I do the whole Monty on him, and he's like, comes out from the bedroom. Wow, I feel like I'm born again. I said, you are. You're now that guy back from where you started. And you can, make a choice. I helped you make this first step. I said, do you want to go downstairs and get more heroin? No, I don't want to do heroin ever again. So do you want to, treat your children like crap? No, I want to love them. Your wife, you're going to ignore. No, I'm going to buy her. I said, don't buy her anything. Go home and say, honey, how was your day? Because that's what she says to you every day. And then you vent venom on her. And she's had, how long you been married? 18 years. I said, and you vent and you vent venom and poison on your children and your while they're eating dinner. I said, did you ever like cooking? Yes, my grandma told me how to cook. I love cooking. And, I stopped doing it because I thought I got fat. And so, and people made fun of me when I was in middle school and grammar school because I was fat. And the gym teacher made me, make fun of me. And in high school, I became, body dysmorphic. And I met this woman in college and she was body dysmorphic. And we both vented on each other. And then she became hot and I became hot too. And that's all I focus on is making more and more money and crushing people. I said, do you want to crush people anymore? No. I'm going to quit my job. I said, no, a job is a job. Just don't crush people. You don't have, I have to be, no, you don't have to be mean. I have to be a Republican. No, you don't have to be a Republican. It doesn't matter. Republican, Democrat, liberal, conservative. Be yourself. Be the best person. And that's what I cleared all of that out of you, right? You don't feel you have to do that. You're just repeating a pattern. You don't have to follow this pattern. You walk down those steps, you walk out that door, you're a different guy. Now, that pattern you've been playing, how old are you? Oh, I'm 41 years old. Well, you've been playing that pattern for 41 years. It's going to be a little effort, but I've so cleared it out of you, your physical, body, your avatar. He goes, what's the avatar? I said, buddy, you're just a bag of water. You are not your body. Your true consciousness is in a higher plane. You come back, I'll show you how to meditate. I will. What's your name? Sensei Owl Bob. Not A-L-O-W-L. Every time you use the word A-L, referring to me, you are being disrespectful to yourself. You are lying to yourself. You are cheating yourself, and you're saying to yourself that I am just a piece of excrement. If you cannot use the word O-W-L when referring to Sensei Al Bob, you are calling yourself a piece of excrement. And he said, I won't do that, I promise. And I said, so you're going to go out that door and you're going to take that first step. You're going to go home and you're going to love your family. Then you're going to, here it is Friday, you're going to go and visit everyone who lives. I said, is most of your family? Yes, all my family's in New York. I'll go visit them. And just you, and go with love. And every day and every way, you co-create with love. And you will be that artist, and you can do anything, and you'll be successful, and you will make a living, you will do well, you'll be successful, but you won't have to be that mean, cruel piece of excrement that you were when you came up the stairs to see me. But when you made the decision to go up 2 more flights to see me because your friend Bob told you, you were taking that first step not to be that piece of excrement. So he turns around, he goes through the front door, and he goes, well, what do I owe you? And I said, think about what value that you've just experienced and give me a gift of whatever you think it is worth. And I just walked up the stairs to my library, and I came down, and he left 10 Benjamins. So inside of 2 weeks, I had 5 customers of this ilk. And every month, I was making about $5,500 in Benjamins. And that wasn't what you got to pay $39. If I had to put up, I had plenty of students and people I worked with in hospitals and in schools. They all had private practices, but they were, that'll be $100. And they were, wow, I'm making $100 an hour, because I didn't ask for anything. I just asked for the individuals who experienced to put a value for themselves on this and give it as a gift. And more than half of that money I was doing the homestead thing. I was dealing with homeless people. I was dealing with lots of hospitals and a lot of people in need. And more than half of that I spent on doing things for other people. And the other half I spent on, doing the nightclubs and stuff that, the things I was doing again for other people. I was sharing my joy with other people. I was making people happy, and they were making that happiness was making me happy. But I wasn't buying myself a new pair of shorts or socks or the next new camera. I had two cameras, and I had them for 10, 15 years, and they, I dropped them a million times, and they were put together with gaffer's tape, but they did the job, you know. So there was nothing that I wore or had that it had to be the newest, the best, the most expensive, because it would make me feel good about myself. What made me feel good about myself was that I made other people's happy. I served love's co-creation. I existed in love's co-creation, not in the illusion of the meat puppet. So here we are, 2 hours, 30 minutes. At 2 hours, 30 minutes, and 31 seconds, I'm going to say, well, I'm going to read a little bit more. I'm going to go back to where back to message restricted or retracted. Sarah said, every day in every way, sending lots of love to you, John. Thanks, Sarah. I'm telling you, just stop talking negative about me online. Are you illiterate? John, illiterate? You don't have a single degree, act so educated. I'm proud to be illiterate. I got more degrees than a thermometer. It was just that they were given to me. I didn't go into hock for them. They were given to me so they would give, some kind of cachet for the people I was working for. Sarah, you're welcome. And most people don't say negative things about anybody. Anything that's negative said about anybody is usually said by that person who thinks something negative has been said about them. It's too bad. The story about the Wall Street guy is, it's sad. And that's, it's just sad. I'll just have to double down on love on J-Box. And stop saying anything negative about me. Slipping out of your typewriter for lunch. Yes, living in the matrix, this happens to all of us.